Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
"48 drivers have tackled 20 races in the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup, and still we are uncertain on who is going to take any of our 4 titles. Tonight will be decisive, however, as the drivers take to the Imola circuit in a desperate attempt to score the points they need to earn glory for this season. Taking you through this season finale alongside myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, is Chad Dick, and Samudi Kumo is bringing you this stream on Apex Racing TV. Chad, it has been a super entertaining season, but it is rare that we have this situation where genuinely all 4 of our titles are coming down to the wire. There are 3 or 4 drivers in play in every single one of them.
Yeah, we are in for some exciting racing. I think everybody's got something to fight for today. I think as I look back over the last 5 races, the thing that jumps out at me off the leaderboard in the standings is, particularly in the pro class, we've had 5 different drivers set the pole and 5 different drivers win each of the different features. So if that doesn't tell you, if any of those guys wants to repeat today, they're going to be fighting for the top, and then anybody else who hasn't found themselves in glory is probably going to be fighting as well.
Michael White and Michael Yang have had the momentum in the second half of the season, taking race wins, as you alluded to. Leon Rudinger was very strong in the first 2 rounds, then had a bit of a tricky run of it. However, at Nürburgring last time, he was much stronger, and really any of those 3 have a good chance. In the Pro-Am Championship, as it stands, it's looking good for Philip Hammer, and he has got a little bit of a bigger gap, but still, Belicki and Sedgley with a chance. Pereira and Holland probably going to need something big to happen to the drivers ahead in order to have any chance. And in the amateur category, I think perhaps the most unpredictable out of all of them, because we have Thorsten Seifert, who's been really leading the entire way, had a fantastic start to the season, but Bob Humphrey was on top form back at Nürburgring 1 week ago. He moves up to 2nd place in the championship ahead of Belicki, and even Stevens stands a chance as well. Perhaps Copeland down in 5th position, and the team's championship, that has been closing up as well, with Apex Racing Team catching up to Impulse Racing. A good score for them tonight could still overturn that 38-point deficit. And so, well, it's a tough night for us, honestly, Chad, because it leaves us with a lot of maths to do to figure out who is on top at any one time.
Yeah, get out the calculators, but I'm going to make this prediction. I don't think we're going to be able to tell until we get to the end of the feature race. I just don't think it's going to be, somebody jumping out to a commanding lead here. This is going to be very similar to last week, where lots of passing zones, but also lots of places to make mistakes here with all the curbs and the off track. So I think we are set up for, an excellent race situation today where we've got a lot of competitors with lots to fight for, and we got a track that is not going to make it easy to end up on top.
There are the conditions for tonight's racing. Midday and it's static weather. This is the weather that they would have been using in the official series pretty much, and also pretty much the weather that will be used for the qualifier series, which has been happening every Saturday for the past few weeks. And we've chatted with the likes of Michael Yanni and Parker White, and they've really appreciated this series to be able to practice their racecraft, and none more so than this Imola circuit, which is a very narrow track, and in my opinion, by far the best circuit that we've visited this whole season. It is tricky to beat this place. Cope moves to the top then, as the first few times are being set by all the drivers.
Yeah, I'm going to be really watching to see how aggressive the drivers are through this turn that we're looking at here through the first and second chicanes there at Tamburello and Villeneuve. We've got those little sleeping policeman curbs that this car is set up to be able to take them if you can keep the car balanced on exit. But sometimes the faster line, particularly if you're in traffic, might be to stay off of them and maintain your momentum and speed through them. So I'm going to be very curious to see how they take these sections. Do they eat these curbs and wait for the car to settle, or do they keep the floor to the pedal to the floor and really try and maintain momentum and speed?
And as we often see, the divide between the top 8 and the bottom 8, where many drivers have just not pushed whatsoever on their first laps. They're doing a double warm-up lap and will push on their second time. It does leave you with a lot of pressure to do, but these guys are some of the best in the business, and they will perform. And after all, they need to perform tonight in order to feel confident about racing for the qualifiers, which of course concludes. This is the final round of the qualifiers, as Imola, and there are a few of those qualification spots for the contender series still to be decided. Philip Hammond, though, after the first round, he's at the top, and that's big for our Pro-Am Championship leader going into this round.
Yeah, I'm always reminded when we watch the qualifying, the separation between this sort of alien class as represented by all three classes here. These guys are all just extraordinarily quick and consistent and precise, and that's really what separates them from the mere mortals. So I ran a few test laps with these guys when they were during warm-ups. Best I could do was a 146. I'm 2 seconds off the pace from these guys. They are just incredible at how precise and efficient they are, and I think that's what gives them the confidence, particularly in the pro class, to do that double warm-up lap, because they're not worried about being able to set down a time. They know they'll get one, and so they're setting the car up for optimal conditions to be able to maximize that pace.
And Luke McCurran very much maximising that pace. You see the extra time that was available. Those top 4 going a second quicker than Philip Hammond's first lap time. Costa moves up to 4th position, but McCurran, who was very strong last time out at Nürburgring, he's not in the championship hunt, but he could definitely help White and Yanni, and he's currently in Apex 1, 2, 3 as it stands. But still, Rudinger is just crossing the line. Where can Rudinger go? This is huge for the championship. And Leon goes 4th position. He'll be disappointed with that one, and that really does leave the cards in Apex's hands at the moment. Rudinger will start in 2nd position in Heat 2. Benzo also moving up to 6th place. Still a few more drivers to complete their lap times. Nick Madsen is yet to complete his 2nd lap time. Also Luis Urai and Bob Humphrey, who we should keep an eye out for. Humphrey's only going to get 1 lap, however, so 2nd place in the Amateur Championship, not having a good run of it. And Madsen will try to get himself into the top 10, but that's a big lap there from McCurran. Quarter of a second, dare I say that's the biggest pole margin we've seen this season.
Yeah, it's been a bit of the story this season, is what I might call the wall of Apex drivers, that they tend to cluster together. Obviously, they've been practicing together. They have very similar pace. They're not exactly on the same team, even though they're both sponsored by Apex. We got Apex Racing Team and Apex Racing Academy, which is, you got Parker White on the Academy team and McCowan and Yanni together, which is why their points don't combine for the team championship. But in terms of coordination and working together on track, I think we've seen that consistently throughout the season. I'm not surprised to see those 3 guys at the top.
So Madsen moves to 13th, Humphrey 19th, and you have to wonder if Humphrey had 2 laps where he could have been, but for some reason he exited the pits very late, it seems, and he will only get the 1 lap in. He won't be able to complete the laps that he's currently started. It's very much similar rules to the officials, as Arai has locked a brake, but he's got it. No, he hasn't got it stopped. He hasn't got it stopped whatsoever. That's a 1x, and it won't be an eligible lap time for Arai. Cuenza just crossing the line as well. Cuenza goes to 16th place, and that will be our last time, because with 10 seconds to go, no one is close to reaching the line apart from Arai, who just picked up a 1x, so he will start in last position and will be part of this Heat 1, of course. 2 heats, a B final and an A final for tonight, and this first heat, apologies, will feature 14 different drivers, and is Luke McCowan up on the pole position. Apex Racing Team, interestingly, ahead of Impulse Racing. Those are the two teams going for the title, and if Apex Racing Team can get a clean sweep of maximum points tonight, that might well be enough for them to overhaul the deficit to Impulse Racing, who have been leading from the very get-go this season. Behind them four, it is Philip Hammer with a really good qualifying for Hammer. That's what he needs, leader of the Pro-Am Championship, but he needs a strong night if he's going to clinch that one. Then it's Scully, Madsen, Pereira, Faria, Timberlicki, strong qualifying for him, up in 10th there. Then it's Daniel Sedgley, who we saw very frustrated in qualifying. Luciano Thunder, who is new to the series, he lines up in 12th place. Then it's Paul Joseph Clist and Luis Araya, rounding out the 14 cars.
Well, if that isn't a racing name if I've ever seen one, Luciano Thunder, let's see what he brings today. But, you look at the top of that leaderboard, it's going to be interesting to watch Luke McCowan today, who's sitting in P6 in the overall championship. I don't think he can get into the podium spots, but he clearly came to play today, and sitting atop the leaderboard there of our grid is going to be fun to watch. And again, we also see how the grids sort of switch up. So our 1, 2, 3 from the Apex teams have split between the two heats. We've got 1 and 3 here with McCowan and Yanni, and Parker White will be in the other split.
Yeah, a little bit of a divide there. I think Yanni, of course, currently our second place in the championship. Could he beat McCowan? It's difficult to tell, but a good opportunity for Apex Racing Team to get a 1-2 finish here and get some big points. And dare I say, if they can hold it off the line, it will be tricky to break that that strength. Really, Watkins Glen was the one slipstreaming round. Apart from that, we've had a lot of tight, twisty circuits, and this is none other, but it is definitely the best of all of them. The final round then of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup is about to get underway. Luke McCowan leading this Heat 1 grid, and away we launch. It's a really strong start for everyone really in the top 6, and immediately covering off Costa is Yanni. There might be an opportunity here for Belka to go around the outside. He might be able to get past his teammate, maybe even change the Apex cars, but he just settles in behind and settles for 4th position. It's Hammer and Scully in 5th and 6th. No changes in the top 6, but Pereira getting past Madsen and Belicki getting past Faria.
Well, kudos to you for keeping all those green, white, and black cars straight there at the start. We're going to have to talk to those two teams and tell them they're going to have to introduce some orange and red to help us separate the front of the field, but a very clean start until we saw that.
Yeah, Paul Joseph Clist rounds. Luciano Thunder may have been involved in that one. He has lost a place so far, as Faria is now getting past Pereira. So Pereira's had a bit of a setback. He was up to 7th position just a moment ago, but he's down to 10th position now, and is at threat of losing even to Daniel Sedgley as well. You can see Sedgley in that Olympus car just sat behind. Belicki, I think, is as bad as it's going to get for Pereira. Only the top 8 get straight through into the A final, so these are some important positions, as Belicki is still defending. Pereira's not going to have any promise around there, and he does back out and settle for 10th.
Yeah, this is a track that's sort of got, formal and informal slowdowns. If you make a mistake here, hit the bumps the wrong way, get offline, somebody can get inside you, and then you end up having to kind of lift and get back into position. That may have been what happened to him back there. Or, you've got a lot of off tracks. People take a little bit too much, find themselves really offline. May translate to a slowdown in a couple of spots, but it's just a very tight course, as you said, that demands precision and efficiency. And
Sedgley's gone for it. He's not going to make the corner, but 2 others haven't made the corner as well. And it's Michael Yanni is one of the drivers who has gone straight on at the Ravazza for the first time around. It is a tricky corner on cold tyres, so easy to lock the right front, or the left front, apologies. And he went wide, but also went wide was Tim Belicki? I'm not sure. No, it was Pascal Costa. Apologies. Was Costa gone into the back of Yanni? He's completely messed up the braking. Yanni gets some door contact. He'll be able to continue without much damage, but that has really scuppered both of these guys' races, and a potential penalty as well for Costa incoming, because he just lost control. Like I said, once you lock a wheel into that corner, you are done for.
Well, he had kind of the double whammy of cold tires and coming in offline off that inside line, and that's, on lap 1, that's kind of the recipe for disaster, as we saw there.
Looks like Bernardo Faria has got a slowdown. I can only imagine he's going very slowly. He's also got some damage in the back of his car, and he's taking some alternative racing line, so I'm not sure what's happening there. He's now right on the cusp of the top 8, and Costa will have to work hard in 10th position now with damage. He's got to make up at least 2 places to get into the top 8, and of course that is big for the team's championship. going into this round about a 35-point advantage for Impulse Racing over Apex Racing Team. Fortunately for Costa is that his two teammates doing very well, Vilkut and Hammer, and it's only your best two drivers who score points across the meeting. So, in a way, despite the fact that there's probably going to be a penalty incoming, that's probably helped marginally the driver of, or the team of Impulse Racing. We'll see how that turns out at the end of the day, but McCurran looks fairly safe out in the lead ahead of Vilkut at least.
Yeah, as a driver, you got to be a goldfish and just forget that even happened. He's got to push as hard as he can, get as far up, and you know, if there's any penalties to come after the race, so be it. Let the chips fall where they may. But at this moment, last race, you gotta accumulate the best position you can to accumulate as many points as you can.
Looks like Faria is getting past Belicki again. That's a bit risky there from Faria. He came across on Tim Belicki quite a bit. Belicki, of course, going for the Amateur Championship. And 8th place would be... Oh, that's a slide. That is a slide. We've seen some good saves in various series on Apex Racing TV recently. So a fantastic one by Anders Meyer in the GT3 Trophy yesterday. And that's another one, a good one there from Belicki. Wonderful stuff. But Belicki went into this round 8 points behind Thorsten Seifert. As it's a slide down for Faria just ahead. But this result is all right for Belicki. He'll have a chance in the A final, but really, from Seifert's qualifying, Seifert was, I think, would be starting off in about 6th place for his heat. And so, very much the German performing well. So, Belicki, if he can gain anything, he really needs to go for it. He's certainly the underdog in the championship. As it stands, as he has gained something, because Faria has definitely spun it around this time, and he'll drop outside the top 10.
I was just about to comment and say we're seeing a very different race from Faria here in the first heat. Normally, he's run into a little bit of trouble on the last few races and ended up getting into the feature by going through the B consolation race. And I was going to say, looks like he's looking to establish himself here, but maybe just pushing a little bit too hard there. Maybe overheated the tires a little bit going into Aqua Minerale there. That's a tough, tight corner. If you don't hit it with the right speed or you get a little off balance hitting the curbs, it's just really hard to get the car settled so you can get the gas pedal down again.
Not sure if he's going to be able to even catch up to the drivers ahead. Sedgley has already had issues so far in this race. He'll be let past by his Olympus esports teammates without any problems. Luis Ferrari having a better time of it in this heat than he did in qualifying, where he made that mistake, as Pereira has got past Belicki, but this one isn't necessarily settled. Belicki's entitled to some space there. They make a bit of contact and they'll be very slow, will Pereira, and Pereira drops down to 9th place. Costa benefits from that, and Costa will be the next one up on Belicki, but that is how narrow that chicane is. And these cars are looking very clumsy as they try to manage to maneuver around one another and avoid contact.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen that already in this race where they sort of lose the back end? But God, do these guys have quick reactions. They just catch it there. And whether it's on the AstroTurf or the middle of the track, really impressive ability to control the car even when it starts to slide like that.
Belicki very much fighting for every point. That's what he needs to do. And of course, at stake, even if you get through into the A final, it's a few grid positions as well. So 7th position would put you on 13th for the A final grid. 8th position would put you in 15th. But I do feel like Costa's inevitably going to get past by the end of this race. He gets very close into Variante Alta, taking a little bit of the curb, but actually Belicki managing to pull away slightly. Costa will have to wait at least until Tamburello in order to go for an overtake. I will give a quick shout out to our title sponsor for this series, as Furia gets past Araya, Apex Racing Academy. Big thanks to them for supporting this championship, offering some great prizes. And of course, do check out apexracingac.com for more information, as absolute chaos has happened. Thunder and Sedgley are off the circuit, and there was also a mistake for Manuel Scully.
Yeah, it looks like the Scully mistake allowed Yanni to pick another position back up, so he's starting to make his way back up the grid. This just looks like two cars fighting for the same space going into Roata there.
Thunder sort of edging towards the right of the circuit, and Sedgley was there, and once there was that initial bit of contact, there was no chance for him to be able to make the corner, and now they're further fighting. And I think that was the most inevitable incident I think we've ever seen on the channel. Sedgley moving past Thunder, who's made his first villain in Apex Racing League in his first event, and they will both have to progress from the B final to get anywhere near the A finals now.
Yeah, that looks like some sparring that might continue here all the way to the end, or maybe in the B final if those two can make it in there. So we'll have to see.
McCowan only just ahead of Velka still. And I wonder if we could get a replay as well of Scully's incident, because Scully lost 6 seconds on that last lap on Smiley Kume, who's been bringing bonus to the rounds and doing a fantastic job, as he always does for this series. This is what happened to him, and in fact it was an attempted move from Madsen. And, well, I don't know what you think about that one, Chad, but I think that was ambitious.
Little optimistic. That looks like kind of a textbook vortex of danger move, you know, trying to stick the car on the inside when you don't quite have enough overlap and the other guy's already closing the door. So, you know, it's nice to see that even these folks in the Alien class sometimes make that sort of classic mistake of trying to make an overtake a little too late into a corner.
This could be an overtake here. Mario Vilka, with a fantastic turn of speed, he's maybe going to get his nose ahead, but he's actually lifted off quite early into the corner. He just wants to get the cutback on McCowan, and this is for the A final pole position. And he is definitely faster than McCowan here. Going into Villeneuve, again, he'll try to get him offline at the very least. No opportunity to overtake around this part of the track. McCowan a little bit unsettled by the curve, but Vilka was a bit tight into the second part of Villeneuve himself. Toasts the opportunity for the dive, and from this point onwards, it's very tricky to overtake for the rest of the circuit. But Vilka very much making an impression on McCowan, who's going to have to go defensive for most of the corners to the checker flag.
Yeah, maybe hard to overtake, but easy to make a mistake up here, whether it's the Rocca Minerale or Variante Alta. If you hit any of those curbs or get a little unbalanced and the guy behind you can see a little gap, I would expect him to make a move here. So he's probably just looking to see if there's any mistakes here by McCowan coming home.
He's a little bit wide there as the 146. He will pick up a 1x, but he won't care one bit about that, as long as it wasn't a slowdown. Variante Alta, there's one more overtaking spot to the end of this race. And I've already seen one Impulse car make contact with an Apex Racing team car into Rivazza. Are we going to see it again? Is McCowan going to be able to hold on, or is Velgert going to be able to pull off a last corner maneuver? He's a bit too far back, and as long as McCowan keeps his head here, he is going to be able to take another Heat 1 victory. Velgert with a fantastic drive to push him as hard as he has done, much closer than in qualifying. But it will be by a matter of a tenth of a second, Luke McCowan to take the Heat 1 victory. 900ths in the end, the gap ahead of Velgert Hammer. Madsen will beat Yanni, and that will be a couple of places on the grid. Scully with a frustrating 6th, Costa recovering to 7th, and Belicki, crucially, getting into the top 8 and into the A final. So we've got at least one amateur driver into the A final tonight. Pereira, Ferreira, Sedgley, Thunder, Clist, and Araya all missing out, but will be in the B final.
I think that photo finish there at the top is probably a preview of things to come in the future, and it's really interesting to see Bilecki make the cut there in the AM class, because he's sitting in P3 on our overall standings, only two points back from P2 and 8 points back from P1. So if he can make his way into that future final, we might start to see a little shuffle in the standings there in the AM class.
Honestly, what I wouldn't mind is if Humphrey and Seifert don't make the A final, and then it's just simple maths for us. We can figure it out before the A final, and then we can just say, okay, he needs 13th to win the championship or something like that, and it'll be simple. I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately. Parker White starts on pole position for the Heat 2, ahead of Rudinja, Benzo, Belicki, of the Luis variety, that is, Roma, Cope, Young, Cuenza. Seifert actually down in 9th place. I thought he did better in qualifying, but he's in 9th. Humphrey, Stevens, Saul, and Jerry Zeinelt. Dare I say, this is an insane quality field. No disrespect to Heat 1. I think this is by far a high quality field, this Heat 2. Anyone who doesn't get through is going to feel frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, JBZ being down there at the bottom, he's been one of our quickest drivers all season, so you got to expect him to be making a move up through the grid. And I think we're seeing there the difference between the double warm-up lap and the single warm-up lap in terms of how they stacked up, but you're absolutely right. This is a stacked grid.
Here we go then, White with a crucial start here to keep his championship hopes alive. It looks pretty good right there. Rudinja moves into 2nd position. They're all making a beeline to the inside of the circuit. The top 6 are all in the exact same order. Once again, everyone getting off the line very well. There is a contact behind, and skating across are a couple of drivers. Looked like White may have been put off as well, because Rudinja leads the way. White will pick up a slowdown and will be sent tumbling down the order, and this is desperate for Parker White and his championship aspirations. because the slowdown on that one is particularly penalising. Humphrey was able to get through that, but Seifert wasn't, and that could be decisive for our amateur championship, because Seifert has got some work to do now. He has lost that position to Humphrey, and Humphrey's teammate Stevens is potentially a blocking mechanism in order to protect his Evo SR driver. But it's Rudinja leading Benzo, Cope, and that could have been a whole lot worse into Tamburello.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where you see a disaster happening, slowly unfolding in front of our eyes. Thankfully, not too many cars collected with that, but you do have to wonder if Parker saw that coming out of the peripheral vision, or if he's got a spot, or maybe got a warning that somebody was coming, and that caused him to change his line and left and get that slowdown.
Yeah, because I think he hit the brakes all right, and then he just seemed to go across the gravel, and you can see there in 5th position. Cope with a real nice start, up 3 places. Coenzo up 4 places. Highest gainer is JBZ with 5 places gained. But here's the replay, and there must have been some contact further down. Yeah, there was almost a little bit of 3 wide, and round was the fire car of Malte Roma, who started in 5th position. And yeah, meanwhile, White taking seemingly evasive action, and with a big penalty that lost him 4 positions.
Yeah, I hope he didn't sustain any damage either. I think these cars are pretty sturdy compared to the regular GT3s, but eating those curbs like that, every once in a while you will get a damage to your front splitter or maybe to the front suspension. I think he's okay, maybe just a little bruised ego and a slowdown, but he certainly came across those sleeping policemen pretty harsh there.
You know what, I'm looking back at the replay now, and actually I think he did just mess up his braking. I think he did just go too deep, so mistake from Parker there, and something that we haven't seen too much so far this season. And Rudinja now leads the way, and with issues for Yanni in Heat 1, and now issues for White as well. The U-Race BR Esports by Red Dragon Joe, who had no momentum in round 3 and round 4 of the championship, all of a sudden sits at the moment in the championship lead, if I'm calculating right, and will also start on the front row of the grid for the A-Fun. So Rudinja leading the way ahead of Benzo and Cope, as you can see on your screens. Benzo keeping very honest at the moment. You can see Benzo up there. He's had a couple of poor qualifyings and left himself with a lot of work to do. This time he's right up there, and he is more than capable of winning this race. Rudinja doing just enough as it stands to hold on.
Yeah, I almost feel like we've got the reverse announcer's curse going here. Like the drivers are going to try and make the math as hard as it can be for us, calculating all of the different switches and standings, because this is playing out to be very, very competitive.
Yeah, it's tough. I haven't even gone into the Pro-Ams. I need to load up what the Pro-Am scores are at the moment, because I don't think Young's certainly not in it, is he? It's 3 other drivers who have got a chance at the Pro-Ams, or 2 other drivers really. Hammer's the leader of that, and looking good from Heat 1. As there goes GBZ to move up to 6th place. He's now gone up over half the field. He's up 7 places. And he could definitely catch up to White maybe by the end of this race. 2.2 seconds to catch White. White did just set the fastest lap of the race, but if there's bouncing ahead, that might help him, as Thorsten Seifert is having an absolute mare. And this is the big story from this race. Maybe up there with White having issues. It's that Seifert, who was the only amateur driver in the A final for the first 2 meetings of the season. And right now he is a long way away from it. He will have the B final to recover. But I think 11th place is pretty much as good as it's going to get for him in this heat.
Yeah, back to your comments about the Pro-Am standings. We got Philip Hammer in first, Lewis Bielicki and Daniel Sedgley were tied for second, 14 points back. I don't recall Sedgley making, at least making it in the first heat. So if he has any chance at the feature, he's going to have to do it in the consolation. And then Lewis Bielicki, as we see here, is in P12. So I don't know that that's going to help improve his standing either. So it'll be interesting to see, because obviously fighting for a P2 and a P3 in class is certainly worth something worth fighting for. So it'll be interesting to see what those guys bring in the consolation.
Yeah, Sedgley definitely didn't make it in. He'll be starting down in 5th position for... No, lower than that. I'm totally wrong. I'm trying to figure it out. My brain's gone blank. 9th position. He'll be starting 9th position. As that is... Well, Seifert's lost another place this time. It is to Lewis Bielicki, who was involved in some of the mess on lap 1. Maybe we could get a couple more angles of that mess on lap 1, because it was chaotic. I think it was Bielicki who actually moved to the left and hit Malte Roma And I might be judging this one a little bit quick, but watch out for the grey car here, and then he makes contact with the black car on the inside. Is it him? I mean, it's tricky because it's sort of a kink, but it does look a bit like Bilicki comes across a bit, and that was how both of those drivers were tumbling down the order. Here it is again. Is there a big turn to the left here? I mean, one could argue that the track does turn to the left, and then a miracle that he didn't make contact with anyone on track. So Bilicki with plenty of work to do along with Seifert, but it was going a little bit slowly there. Bilicki, I think he's all right, however. And no other changes really going on at the moment. White is fast, and he is 0.3 of a second, well, quarter of a second faster than Coenza. And he can see the race lead. He's only 2.5 seconds off the lead right now to Parker White. But that is all the difference that is needed, because he is down in 5th position. Of course, the A final will be much longer than this. It will be 16 laps of racing. That equates to about 25 minutes, so way longer than these 10-minute heats, so much more of an opportunity to make up places later on. But of course, this result does claim some points to your total, and also sets the grid as well for the A final. So it is really important for Parker to make his way up, and this has been another strong lap for him. Fastest sector 1, fastest sector 3. He may have been held up a little bit near the end of this lap, but it's not going to be far away from another fastest lap of the race. Can he dip at least into the 43s again? It was a faster lap actually there for White, but he picked up a 1x, so it didn't quite count. But still, a very strong lap time once again by the American. He's putting all the pressure he can possibly muster onto the Italian ahead.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, I think he's going for this P4 spot. Probably a little bit of a stretch to get to P3 with 2.5 minutes left remaining in the race. The other driver I'd keep an eye on right now is Humphrey in P8. Obviously inside the cut to make the feature, but he's got a pro class driver, Romer, behind him, not too far back. And it's interesting to see Humphrey sitting 5 positions above Seifert, because the two of them are neck and neck in the standings, with Seifert in first in the AM class and Humphrey in second, only 6 points back. So if Humphrey can make the feature here and Seifert doesn't, it'll be interesting to see what Seifert can do in the consolation.
Here comes a move then, Coenza versus Cope. Seems like Cope has made a mistake, and Coenza is past. That was very well done. He knew there was one chance at making the move, as now there's a bit of contact. That is very far off the circuit for Cope. Don't think he's picked up a slowdown. In fact, I think it helped his acceleration quite a bit coming out of that corner, and White wasn't able to profit from it. So I think a mistake through Piratella for Cope, and Coenza able to thread the needle on the outside of Aqua Minerale, and is up to 3rd position now.
I feel like I need to go back and revise my statement saying 3 isn't in play for White. Now it is. One little mistake on this track, and all of a sudden we got 3 cars, you know, nose to tail here. So anything can happen in these last couple laps.
Cope very thankful for the draft he's getting from the back of Coenza's car. Even then, he might be vulnerable. White with maybe a little bit of damage. You identified it earlier on over those curbs. It can harm the car. And he's looking to the outside, but nothing really potential there. And you can see how risky it is, because the driver can so easily just move across. And if that happens, then you are only going onto the grass. And once you hit the grass, you've got no grip whatsoever. As here comes White. This time he's a bit more alongside. How much is Cope going to fight this one? He'll stay on the outside through the Villeneuve chicane, and will just force off the Apex Racing Academy driver on exit. And still, Cope is holding on to P4, and this is making Parker White very frustrated, I'm sure.
Excellent camera work there, and excellent defense by Cope, holding off White there through a very tight, twisty section. He was forcing him to use the curbs, and that obviously unsettles the car a little bit and causes a moment of pause where he's got to wait before he can get back on the gas.
Yeah, that was enough for him to hold on, and this is the last lap. Not going to be P3 seemingly for White, but there's still one more opportunity, maybe even the run to the line. He was very close on the previous lap to getting past on the line. That was back when Cope had a slipstream, as he's looking even into Variante Alto. We can count on one hand how many moves we'll see into Variante Alto tonight. Cope a little bit slow again, but he actually gets another shove, just like he did on the previous lap from White, and that has really propelled him away. And it's looking increasingly like the British driver will hold on against the American. But this man, Leon Rudinja, what a performance from him. I'm not entirely sure what the point situation is, but this will make it very close between Yanni and Rudinja with just one race of the season remaining. the German driver, taking the Heat 2 race victory and the championship lead ahead of Benzo, Cuenza, Cope holding on against White, then it's JBZ, Young, and Humphrey holds on against Roman. That is crucial for Bob Humphrey, and it does mean that 2 of our amateur championship contenders are in play. Very disappointing for Luis Bilicki and Thorsten Seifert, their championships taking a big hit with those lowly results.
Well, let's take one more shot at glory by going through the consolation race coming up here. So we'll see if maybe they can improve their situation and get into that final. Got to be only the top 4 drivers, though, so that's going to require an incredible drive. And I'd also note JBZ, big hard charger in this one, coming all the way from the back of the grid up to P6. Excellent showing by him. And to your point about Rudinger, he's only 7 points out of P2 and 10 points out of P1 in the pro class. So he has definitely brought himself into play here for the future. So we got to keep our eye on Rudinger, Yanni, and White in the final because things are tightening up there in the top of the pro class.
Yeah, that is incredibly close. Like, I'm not, yeah, we'll try our best when it comes to the maths, but I think it might just be a case of we upload the file the moment everyone crosses this line in the 8th final and see what it says in the results. Joseph Saul now crossing the line. That is it for his race. I will quickly give another shout out, by the way, to Virtual Racing School, another one of the sponsors for this series. Virtual Racing School, of course, providing their fantastic software to make you a faster driver on iRacing, but also produce their hardware with their wheel rim, their wheelbase, and their pedals. And if you want to check out all their equipment, do visit apexracingsim.com or vrs.racing, where you can buy your products from Virtual Racing School and make yourself a quicker driver, of course, used by many pro drivers along with the ESL R1 Rennsport competition. Tiago Pereira then on pole position for this B final ahead of Roma, Faria, Stevens, Araya, Balicki, Sedgley, Seifert, Thunder, Saul and Klist, rounding out 11 cars. A slightly smaller B final grid. However, those top 4 positions never more important, and with all the drivers on the grid, the lights will start to illuminate this Imola circuit for the 3rd time this evening, and Pereira with a crucial launch coming up. We are away racing from Imola. It's a poor start for Roma once again. He's going to lose out to Pereira, but I think that will be the extent of the damage. Pereira is safe out in the lead as it stands, as he just covers off the middle of the circuit. There's a little bit of tightness there between the Olympus Esports driver and the Evo SR driver, and that is round for Tom Stevens. Shame for him, and that was contact with a couple of others as Pereira and Roma are 2 pro drivers colliding in the battle for 2nd position, and they are both out of contention before they're really in it.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Looks like those guys shot themselves in the foot. They're just fighting a little too early, I think, in this heat. This is your last chance to make the feature, and I think a little patience would have been in order for both of those guys. It's just a little too aggressive on the first couple corners, I think.
Yeah, that was very aggressive from Roma, I must say. I think that was Roma. Maybe I'm mixing up the deliveries. I think it was Roma. Who went for the inside move. Whoever was behind going into the 3rd part of the Tamburillo chicane, and the move was not on whatsoever. Well, that is a gift for many of these drivers, and Luis Araya is running up in 2nd position as it stands. Up 3 places, bunch of drivers up 3 places, Saul is up 4 places, Roma and Fury down 8, and Stevens, who we saw spin round on the first chicane, he is down a few places, but very slow over the over Variante outside there is Araya, and Balicki will try to take advantage of this straight away.
Yeah, I would keep an eye on Araya, and the other one I'd keep an eye on is Seifert, because Araya really doesn't have the position to move up in the championship standings.
For Araya, yeah, he's down to 7th position.
But you got Seifert, who now is inside the cut, looking to improve his standing in the M class. Balicki, Sedgley, and Seifert all seem to be rising to the challenge here in order to make the final cut and see what they can do to improve their overall season standings.
Yeah, it's essential for all 3 of them to make it into the A final, and it looks like they're all going to perform that as it stands. Saul and Thunder are behind. Thunder, we're not quite sure how quick he is. He's right on the fringe of being a pro AM or an AM driver, by the way. He's about 3k iRacing, so very solid driver. And we saw in race 1 he wasn't afraid to get his elbows out as well. He's got to get past Joseph Saul first up. He's also got to keep behind Luis Araya after the disappointing end to the previous lap. Thunder already looking for an overtake into Tosa, but he wasn't quite close.
Yeah, just to put punctuation on that incident between Furry and Romer. Unfortunately for Romer, who was sitting in P5 in the overall standings, looks like his day is done and not going to make the final there. So he won't be moving up in the overall championship standings. Probably licking his wounds in the pits right now.
Yep, hopefully we see all these drivers back with us in the future. Because, yeah, it's been a very entertaining season, lots of quality driving. And, oh dear. I mean, obviously that had to happen. Tom Stevens and Paul Joseph Clist making contact. And it looks like Stevens will move past right there. I think both of them potentially with slowdown. Certainly Clist seemed very slow back onto circuits. And that is what happens when you try to race too wide through Aqua Minerale. Very tricky section. Alone, let's alone with another driver.
I was going to say, it looked like the British synchronized swimming team there. Those two guys making the same move at the same time and recovering almost identically. So not surprising to see them nose to tail here, trying to bring up the rear of the field.
What I will say is that our synchronized swimming team is rubbish. Never in the UK do you hear about our synchronized swimming team. It's one of the sports that we clearly do not care about. And it would be nice if we did do it. It's quite a cool sport. But yeah, we've never won a medal, I'm pretty sure. Thunder is in 5th position ahead of Araya, and Araya is round. Whoa, what an awful 3 minutes for Araya from 2nd position. He will be barely in the top 7. In fact, that might be the end of his day, perhaps picking up damage. And he joins the graveyards in the pit lane. So Thunder was able to get past Saul then, and that was sort of what we were seeing the tail end of, I believe. And he's now got 4.5 seconds to catch up to Cypher if he's going to get a berth in the A final.
4.5 seconds to make up in 10 minutes. We'll see if he can do it. He has clearly come in aggressively today. He's been in a couple of close racing situations. I think what we saw back there in that chicane is kind of textbook Imola. You know, if you come in too wide or you come in tight, those curbs start to come in play. And again, just a little unsettling of the car when you're that close to one another can lead to contact and spinning a car around. So I think that's an unfortunate racing incident there, as the 3 cars were racing hard, but that's the kind of thing that can happen here at Imola.
Let us know who you're supporting in the chat. We've already had a few comments from Alessandro and Nguyen supporting Scully. Yeah, of course he will be doing very well in the A final, I'm sure. They're anticipating a bit of a comeback. Unfortunately, he was involved in an incident earlier on with Nick Madsen, I believe, at the final corner. And so, yeah, he's got some catching up to do on that front, as does Scully. But certainly his supporters in force in the chat. Do let us know anyone else who you are supporting. Never know, they might even get a little bit of extra camera time. But in this top 4, this race at the moment at threat of turning a little bit dull, I must say, because this top 4, a decent amount of, well, Puro is just a very solid driver, and then Balicki, Sedgley and Cypher, desperate to get into the A final. All experienced drivers as well in ARL. I seriously doubt any of these guys are going to make a mistake. Like, this 4 should surely be the 4 that we see at the checkered flag.
Well, I think they're benefiting from sort of smart start strategy. All 4 of those guys managed to avoid some of the early carnage, let the car settle in, warm up the tires, found their position, and now they're just managing their gap. So, you know, I always appreciate and applaud guys who can kind of play and race the long game here. They know that there's more to race than just this consolation. They've made their position into the final, and so, you know, a little bit of defense and protection of where you stand is not a bad thing at this stage. Save it for the final, and let's let the fireworks begin there.
Yeah, that's got to be what they're thinking right now, and if they do that, it should all be safe. Thunder's not making an impression on these drivers whatsoever. I think he's actually losing time still, a couple of tenths every sector at the moment is Thunder, so they are all absolutely safe. And the Rakar esports team driver, who started from pole position and hasn't seen anyone ahead of him for this entire event, is more safe than any of them. I will give another shout out as well to an event that's happening, the Apex Racing UK Sim Centre. In a couple of weeks' time, on the 2nd of September, we have the Apex Racing Simulators Open Day. And at that Open Day, we're going to have a racing tournament. We're going to have a Porsche Cup car display. There's going to be the opportunity to meet sim racers and, well, fellow sim racers, along with professional sim racers, streamers as well. And, of course, the opportunity to try out virtual racing school equipment as well with our 8 customer rigs. So do visit the Apex Racing Sim Centre the 2nd of September for our open day, check out apexracingsim.com in order to get your free ticket. It is all free, and you get some food as well for your trouble, so it's very much worth turning up to, and we very much look forward to seeing you there if you do choose to do so. Yeah, Thunder being caught a little bit now by Saul, so those two moving back towards final.
Yeah, I think that's, they're close enough that maybe if there is a little bit of draft on that front straight, Saul's been able to close the gap a little bit there as they come around the final turn. But, as you said, I'm not sure we're going to see much change here in the top 4 position, short of a mistake. There's really not much benefit to pushing and try and grab one more position. I think they're all going to think about, what kind of strategy is necessary. But I will tell you, if I'm looking at the season championship standings, the fact that we've got Sedgley and Seifert making the cut and Bielicki moving up here, we're going to have some math to do at the end.
It's an absolute nightmare, isn't it? I'm thinking about, my bad, I should have got like a spreadsheet or something going into this round. So I knew it was going to be complex. And with the fact that we got 2 rounds which score points, but the point scoring system is different for each, it's an absolute nightmare, frankly. We're sort of going to have to guess a little bit. And I think the drivers are probably going to have to guess as well when it comes to exactly what they need to do. Maybe we'll just have a feeling when it comes to the end. We're certainly quite confident that Rudinja is leading the pros as it stands. In the Pro-Ams, Hammer is looking very good. I mean, something would need to happen to Hammer. Sure, Bielicki and Sedgley have been giving themselves a chance, but they need a stunning result, and Hammer to have a very poor result in the A final. And in the AMs, I think Cypher and Humphrey are pretty much tied right now, right? Like, they are going to be super close to one another. So that one is probably the most likely that is going to change, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's
we'll
right. There's only 6 points separating those two. But, look, I was an engineering major in college, and I'll tell you my least favorite class was multivariate calculus. So I, like you, I think I'm going to rely on the AI and the algorithms and the spreadsheets to sort all this stuff out, because I'm not sure you and I can calculate by hand with our abacuses that fast all the different changes in points and position that are happening in front of us here.
Yes, yeah, it is a lot of stuff going on. Of course, no points, by the way, to anyone who isn't familiar, for the B final if you get through into the A final. If you're 5th or lower, you do score points. But if you're 4th or higher, then you just go into the A final and you score whatever points you get in the A final. Even if you finish last in the A final, you'll still score more points than 5th place in the B final. Is generally how it works. So yeah, no points at stake for the top 4, but there are some good positions at stake, which might help a little bit. Rather than starting in 20th place, you might start up in 17th. So we have just 3.5 minutes to go, and by my reckoning, it's going to be pretty tight whether we get 2 more laps or 3 more laps. It'll come down to the wire. I hope that the guys have put enough fuel in, because they may not have considered that.
Yeah, that's really going to come down to, are they doing any lifting, any tire saving, just to make sure that they avoid any mistakes up there at front, or are they, pedal to the metal and just pushing all the way to the end? I think that pace is going to determine.
Pereira losing a bit of time now to Bielicki. On that last lap, he lost 4/10. On this lap, Bielicki setting the fastest first sector of anyone. And Pereira is seemingly slowing down quite a bit now, so I wonder if he could have messed up the fuel. Because, like I said, it is really tight. Let's listen in to see if he's lifting coaster. That seems fine. That seems fine into Piratella, so maybe he's all right.
Yeah, I think the place to maybe listen to it as he comes down to Ravazza. Is he going to lift and slow the car down that way instead of using the brakes? That would be a good opportunity on that downhill straight to save a little bit of fuel if he needed to.
Nothing into Variante Alta, certainly, but yeah, I think, like you say, Ravazza is the place to do it. It's so downhill anyway, the gravity will carry you along. And so, let's see what he does.
I think you bring up a good point, because a lot of people who race in this class do it in the public open series, and the fuel is set, plenty of fuel for the race, so nobody ever thinks about fuel strategy and pit stops and fuel saving in these cars. But in these open setup situations, I would imagine these guys are putting the absolute minimum of fuel in to maximize every bit of speed and pace on track. But if you get an extra lap, it can bite you here.
So we are going to get... No. Okay, so this is the last lap. So I wonder if he panics for a moment and thought, oh no, it's going to be 2 more laps, but nah, it's only 1 more lap. I think we're going to be short by 5 to 10 seconds. So he's all right, is Pereira, but you can see Balicki much faster in the first sector, just much more confident over the curbs, and that's another element. You mentioned the open setup. How you set up your car will very much change how you can deal with the curbs. But Balicki will know the situation better than anyone else in this race, and knows that second place is plenty enough for him, and he'll very much make his presence known. But I think Pereira should be safe out something.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where, you know, what we're seeing live right in front of us is why iRacing doesn't share certain data between drivers, because obviously knowing your competitor's fuel situation might influence your strategy. So this is a fantastic view we've got here of Balicki's car, where he's trying to probably figure out why did Pereira slow down. Meanwhile, we're looking at the big picture, and Pereira in the front's probably going, I don't want that extra lap. So he may have just lifted voluntarily or slowed down a little bit, let Balicki kind of close in on him just to make sure he didn't go that extra lap. But again, as you're driving in real time, you don't necessarily know all of that information. So he's probably licking his chops back here going, maybe I can make one more spot back up here and improve my standing in the feature that he's obviously going to make here inside the cut.
He was very willing to pick up the 1x on the exit of Acqua Minerale, got him close into the Variante Alta, but the concertina effect giving a few car lengths to Pereira, and with just 1 corner to go, it looks like the Portuguese is going to do just about enough to take this B final race victory. But the big news is the other drivers who get through. Balicki, Sedgley and Cypher keeping their championship hopes alive. They progress alongside Pereira, and it really is a championship showdown. All 4 of our championships, including the team's championship, are even closer than they were at the start of the day. And really any of them could go any which way as the main drivers across the line. It's so exciting.
Well, all the viewers then just need to stay to the end to figure out how this sorts itself out. So we gotta give thanks to our entire grid of drivers for keeping this interesting all the way down to the final lap of the final race of the finals, you know, at the final of the season. So I don't think we could have asked for a better setup, not only for this race but the overall championship. Just a fantastic reflection of the quality of racing we've seen in this series all season long.
Yeah, really, really is. As warm-up just starting for the drivers, so they'll have 3 minutes to do whatever they want, and maybe get a little bit of extra practice across a few of the drivers who were in that B final, with an opportunity now to get a little bit of extra laps under their belts before getting underway. But I mean, from what we saw earlier on, it doesn't look like there's necessarily a dominant driver. I'd say on a couple of occasions recently, you know, Yanni and White have really looked like, you know, like they've got a bit of a gap over the rest. And honestly, it looked like that was the case in the qualifying session earlier on. But by the heats, both of our race winners were under a lot of pressure. I mean, if overtaking is possible over the course of the 16 laps, I think there are going to be some.
Yeah, I think Parker White's a perfect illustration of that. Obviously qualified very well. He's got tremendous pace. He's been up at the pointy end of the grid all season long, and he runs into that one little, you know, issue early on in the race in the first chicane and falls back 5 spots. So that can happen to anybody here. And I think an illustration of what we were talking about at the start of this race, which with everybody being so tight in each of the different classes and the team standings, everybody's got something to fight for here. And so I would expect the kind of close racing we saw at the end of the first heat there to continue here in the feature. I think if there's one lesson to be learned from that second heat is let's let the tires warm up. Let's settle in here. Maybe not press the issue until after you get through Tosa and the hairpin, and you know, you get single file and start to figure out where everybody's going to sit in this thing. Because I think if they push earlier than that, we might be up for some more unforced errors or forced errors that could really shake up the grid here and change the math. I would also guess that those drivers we're not seeing out on track right now probably have their calculators out and are trying to figure out where they sit in the season standings to try and figure out how hard they want to push here in this feature.
I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment. Just getting up the results for Heat 1 and Heat 2 to try to figure out exactly where everyone finished, so I've got a bit of a better idea. Well, there are the results. So McLaren winning out. So McLaren's out of it, Volker out of it. Hammer did so well in race 1, didn't he? I forgot how well Hammer did. So dare I say the Pro-Ams are pretty much settled, because Hammer would need to have a mare in the A final, and for the likes of Balicki and Sedgley to have an absolute dream race. So dare I say the Pro-Ams we can be fairly confident on as long as Hammer doesn't crash. He's got that one sorted, does Philip Hammer. So that's good for Hammer right there. And then you got all the others. Balicki, of course, in the AMs, managing to get through, that was big. Albeit in the second heat, Bob Humphrey had a stunning race and was up there in 8th place. Well, I guess that's only the same gap though, isn't it? So actually still the pair of them do still have a decent chance. Cypher obviously had to go through from the B final. And so those top 3 in the amateurs are ever so close now. Pretty much whoever finishes out on top will maybe clinch the title by my calculations.
Yeah, the AM is by far, I think, of the 3 classes, the one that's the tightest right now, where all 3 spots are in contention. I think Sedgley will be looking to improve up to P2, break the tie there in the Pro-Am class, and you know, the quality of racing and the caliber of those guys at the top, given how tightly stacked it is here at the front of the grid, quite a lot could still happen even in shuffling the top of the Pro. So everything's in play here. This is a fantastic final grid we've got in front of us.
It really is. Luke McKern up on pole position ahead of Leon Rudinger. Rudinger, of course, going for the Pro title ahead of Velka, Benzo, Hammer, Kuenza, Madsen, Cope, Yanni with a lot of work to do. Look at that! Yanni in white in 9th and 10th. Got so many cars to overtake. They need to catch and pass Rudinger in order to win the title. Then it's Scully, JBZ, Costa, Young, Balicki of the Tim variety, Humphrey Pereira, Luis Balicki, Sedgley and Seifert. And the drivers are on the grid, all 20 of them, for the finale and the decisive race for this Season 8 of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup. McCone from the pole position, away we launch. It's a decent start for the Apex Racing team driver. It's a decent start as well for Rudinger, who's able to cover off the 3rd position man of Mario Velga. A 4 start for Michael Yanni, it looks like, who's been sent down the order. That might be Yanni's chances of the title completely over as the top drivers start to get into single file through the first couple of corners. There is a spin in the background. Young is gone, and Tim Balicki as well. And that is Balicki's chances of the Amateur Championship gone. He was only 2 points behind the Championship League going into this race, but that is his chances gone. Humphrey surviving, and Seifert surviving, and Hammer surviving as well. But it's an awful start for both Tim Balicki and Michael Yanni, and Yanni is towed back to the pit. That will be the end of his season.
That's really unfortunate, and that's almost a carbon copy of what we saw in the last race, where just pushing a little too hard from that first chicane. There's just not enough room for people to be going side by side there, and one of them is bound to hit a curb or get offline or, you know, make a little contact as we saw there.
Oh, there was a little bit of contact with one of the Olympus cars as well as Yanni rejoined. There was contact with Nick Madsen. I'm not sure who moved across on who on that occasion, as Cope is round, and I think White may have been involved in that as well. And Parker White is off, and it might be a bit of an anticlimax in the Pro Championship battle, because Leon Rudinger now is miles ahead of the rest. At least going to be able to continue is White. He's going to keep himself in play, but that was contact between Cope and White as White tried to make his way up through the order.
Yeah, we haven't talked much about Pascal Costa today. I don't think he's going to make up enough points to move from, you know, P4 into P3, but we're definitely going to see a shuffle at the top of the Pro class. Rudinger, as you said, is out to a commanding lead here and benefiting from the misfortune of the Apex guys, who this start has just been a disaster for the 2 different Apex teams, Apex Racing Academy and Apex Racing team, with White and Yanni in the pits and White down at the bottom.
Benzo has also had a problem. He seems to went straight on at Ravazza as Rudinger and McKern renew their battle. Well, if that's knows, of course, Rudinger won his heat, didn't he? It was Velka who was all over the back of McKern, and that one's not too far away from happening again, as here comes Rudinger. He's got part of his car alongside. He's not going to be able to do much, though, into Villeneuve, usually the outside driver with the advantage of such a quick left turn. But again, and now that he's going to go for the dummy, this would be a fantastic move if Leon Rudinger could pull off this one. Let's look at Kuenza. Kuenza with the dive of all dives, and completely under the radar. He's the man who's made a move in all that. He's up to 3rd position.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite moves to make when somebody's making an overtake in front of you and there's just a little gap left behind the guy who's passing, and you can just stick your nose in there and sneak right on through, and it looks like that's just what he did.
Kuenza wanting a race victory, starting from 6th position in this A final, but he is on course for challenging the leaders. We've got a while to go yet in this race, 16 laps for the drivers to tackle. And so, yeah, plenty of opportunities for much longer than the A5 from the heats that we had earlier on today. And, well, still, of course, a word on Bob Humphrey as well, still leading in the amateur category, and by my calculations, that would be enough to take the amateur championship victory. But he's only, well, in fact, he's actually 6 seconds ahead of Thorsten Seifert, so Seifert gaining a few places off the start. But he has lost a lot of time, as there goes the send from Tim Balicki, or Luis Balicki, apologies, trying to get past Humphrey, and Humphrey almost had to get out of the brakes there in order to avoid contact.
I think what we just saw there is going to be the story that develops here between Humphrey and Seifert, because Humphrey now has 2 out, 1 more gets by there. I was going to say he's got a couple of the Pro-Am class right behind him, and 2 over the range get by. So now he's only got 1 separating him and Seifert there. If those 2 end up nose to tail, I think we're going to start to see the gloves off, and those 2 guys are going to fight for the top of the season championship standings.
Yeah, now that there's so few cars between them, I'm going to have to revise my calculations. Because, yeah, that's not much, only a couple of points. He'll be gaining Will Humphrey because of this as well. But, of course, he did a lot of damage to the championship lead in the heat. And, of course, came in with a few points of a deficit. Amazing that currently the top 7 are all in a queue. Right now, it's just 1 train behind Luke McCohen, as it stands.
Well, and that seems... I was going to say, that same storyline we're seeing in the AM class play out, we're also seeing it play out in the Pro-Am. So look at Hammer up there in P5. He's got 4 pro guys right behind him, all of which have shown tremendous pace and ability to overtake. And then you've got Luis Balicki in P10. So if all of a sudden those pros start to get their way past Hammer, we could see the exact same thing where it closes up and that championship becomes a race as well.
Okay, asking, what is the points now for Leon to get the title? Well, at the moment, he would win the title. That's pretty much it. I mean, going into this round, they were very even on points, and he's currently absolutely miles ahead of both Yanni and White. And so Rudinja would take the title, as it stands. And he would be the 8th different champion in the Pro Division, as it's a slowdown for Coenza. He's picked up a slowdown there, and Manson will move past as well. So Hammond moves up to 4th position. Well, this would be maybe Hammond's best result of the entire championship, and still losing time now is Coenza. He certainly slowed down, and look at the run that Costa's got. Costa might be able to gain 2 positions right here. He's right on the perimeter of the circuit. Madsen holds on, but Costa, his eyes lit up there, and the German driver thought he could maybe move up to 5th position after starting all the way down to 13th.
Yeah, a little bit of an insurance position there for Hammer, so he moves up to P4. He's still now got 5 pro guys behind him, between him and Balicki, so he's probably feeling a little bit better than he did 2 laps ago.
Oh, there goes the send from Coenza. We've seen it once before, and we've seen it again. And that's, well, he's a little bit pushing it on the exit there, so it's not leaving a car's width, but I think the initial launch at least was absolutely fair enough there from Coenza, really confident. And Costa will feel frustrated, because I'm sure that the German driver feels like he's faster than the Italian. Costa's qualified, I believe, in 3rd position of everyone, but messed up his braking at Rivazza on lap 1 in his heat, smashed into Michael Yanni, and that is why he is so far down. It sends him down the auto as well, and he's had to play catch up ever since, so he now sits in 7th.
Yeah, but he's got the momentum on his side, up 6 spots here in this feature, so I would continue to either see him follow Coenza through as Coenza makes the moves, or better yet, start to put his own moves on and see if he can continue to move up the grid here.
So the front few drivers just starting to pull away a little bit. McCohen with an 0.8 of a second lead over Rudinja. Vilgert's also with those drivers, only a further half-second back, but those top 3 very much by themselves. Then it's Hammer leading this next train. We work battling with one another, so it's giving a bit of respite. Surely if you're Philip Hammond right now, you've got to just think, is it really worth it? I mean, Balicki and Sedgley, they're 7 seconds behind him at the moment. I mean, if I was Hammer, I would not be fighting the likes of Madsen and Coenza, and I'd be letting them go and settling for a position at least ahead of my championship rivals.
Yeah, it's kind of a double gap management there. He's obviously managing the gap to Balicki 5 or 6 spots down, but then he's got space behind him, so he could sort of be judicious and manage the traffic so that he preserves his spot, goes ahead and lets them by, but keeps a little bit of room between him and Balicki in 10th.
Okay, so I'm doing the maths. So Humphrey in race 1 managed to score 8 more points than Seifert. The gap going into this round of the championship, the gap going into this round of the championship was 6 points. So basically, if Humphrey beats Seifert, that's it. That's quite simple, isn't it? I've been picking up how complex it is. I think that's simple. Humphrey beats Seifert, that's it.
That one's straightforward. So I think our pro chip is, at least if things stay as they are now, will be pretty clear cut. So it's really coming down to the Pro-Am folks, and you look at Hammer with a commanding lead there over Bilicki. I think he may hold on to it. The question becomes, what can Sedgley do with Bilicki? Can he get around him and break the tie for P2? Because the two of them were 14 points out of first place coming into today. And I think that's the race to watch going over the last 10 laps or so here is P10 and P11, because they're a second apart and they got a lot to fight for.
It's a change for 4th position. Madsen moves past Hammer and he gets it stopped fairly easy. Good pace for Nick Madsen actually in this event. Not fantastic in qualifying. He's not one of the drivers who goes for the double warm-up lap usually as Madsen. He just goes for both lap times, pushing hard on both. And maybe a little bit of why he hasn't quite performed in qualifying, but in the races he is very strong, and only 4.5 seconds behind the lead as well, which, considering that he's been battling for much of the race, is impressive stuff. And he's already starting to pull away. This train going back to GBZ in 9th position, and that rounds out the top 9 places as Coper's got past Seifert. So Seifert maybe has damage because he's just toppling down the order. Parker White is the next to move past.
Yeah, I think the second race to watch is what's happening here in this little gaggle of 4 or 5 cars. Philip Hammer's given 1 spot up. He's still got 4 between himself and Bilicki, but there's 10 laps to go in the race, so he can really only afford to lose a position every 2 laps or so here. Otherwise, he's going to find his closest competitor there closing in. And I think with these 5 pros in a train, they've got the pace. The question will become, are the opportunities in the racecraft there to get by Hammer, or can he manage the position and use these guys as insurance to lock in his season standings?
They all follow each other once again through Rivatsa and onto the pit straight, but everyone with the draft of one another. And I don't think there's going to be any changes. But yeah, I think Hammer's very much it's going to be the entertaining one to the end of the race. We did go, by the way, very close to Velgut. Just saw that go down less than 0.2 of a second on our timing board. It goes very red when it gets down to 0.2 of a second. You very much feel the intensity of the battling, and that happens. Of course, do check out the live timing link in the description below. Opens up on a web page and gives us all the information that us commentators have. As in fact, there has now been a change of position, and it is Velga ahead of Rudinja. Now, I'm not sure if that was allowing him past or whether that was a snowball.
I gotta think, if I was sitting in Rudinger's shoes, he is playing for the season here, not for the standings in this race. So he's looking at his 13 spot lead over Parker White, who was in this, next closest competitor in the standings, and he's probably feeling pretty comfortable and just wants to bring it home clean, incident free.
Ooh, contact! You can tell that was going to happen. The inside car always going to understeer out, and Guenza wasn't going to give any more room to his rival than he absolutely needed to. And these guys are really going at it. 1 second behind Philip Hammer, so Hammer just once again avoiding this battling. And Costas spent too much of this race behind Guenza. He did get past for a moment, but then Guenza was able to dive back past him into the Tosa hairpin. That's why he currently sits ahead. So with the wipers, tries to clear up a little bit of the rubber from his windshield before going at it again. Certainly they're faster than Hammer here, but yeah, this Max keeps on holding on with it. As Costa should be safe once again here from Scully, who, of course, the chat has a few supporters in. Yeah, he is doing pretty well right now, Scully. Up 3 places. And of course, was running very well in his heats earlier on. I think he was up as high as 4th position, I want to say, in his heats earlier on. But then made contact with Nick Madsen, and that sent him down the order and left him with probably about 6 places lower down the grid for the A-Farm than what he really should have been. And So yeah, just trying to recover as many of those places as possible. Here is Aiden Young. Well, fiercely forward, he's leaving a little bit of room there for Cope, who bundles over the curve, and Parker White on his recovery drive is trying to get past these drives as well. I wonder if, oh, that's a move. There's a move from Cope. He's moved up to 14th place, and it looks like White will go straight through as well. And I wonder if we could get a replay of exactly what happens between White and Cope earlier on, because they collided into the corner that they're about to approach. Aqua Minerale on that one. That's why they sit currently down in 14th and 15th.
Yeah, I think that was smart racing all around there. Young, who's a little too far back to be fighting for anything in the championship standings, recognizes he's got a couple of faster class drivers behind him that are themselves battling for position. So just find a good spot, let them through, and carry on with your race.
So here it was. So they had the 260. So this is Hammer on the inside, then White, and then White sorts of. You know what? I think White actually waited for him, didn't he? I mean, that's, you know, good sort of resolution that even when the championship's on the line, White was willing to wait for his rival. He realised that he was in the fault there. And there's always a risk trying to follow through another driver who's making a move, because that gap does inevitably close most of the time. Meanwhile, still the defensive work is being done by Matteo Chiuenza. He is not letting past Pascal Costa for a moment, and he remains in 6th place.
Yeah, I'd just go back and double click on what you just said there. We talk a lot about the racecraft, the skill, and the pace of these drivers, but that was a tremendous illustration of sportsmanship there. You know, that gentleman rule of sometimes you get into it with another driver and go ahead and letting them have the position back so you get back to racing. I always like to see that on track, letting the drivers sort of self-police themselves.
And Chiuenza all of a sudden going very slow at Tosa, and he's going to be very slow after this as well, because that's heading into the barrier. Oh, he's avoided it. He has avoided it. Well, he'll be thankful for the amount of runoff at Piratella, because I thought that was Curtin's one there. They were already making contact on the straight beforehand, and it was totally inevitable that himself, and I believe it was Scully, would make contact, or maybe actually JBZ, who made contact into Piratella onto the grass. At that point, the car was not slowing down in a hurry. So that could have been a little bit worse, but that's a shame for Chiuenza. Is resolve in 6th position coming to an end, and he will probably spend the rest of this race now in a bit of a lonely night.
But a brilliant example of, even though maybe they're not fighting for the championship, season championship standings at this point, there's still a race within a race, and these guys are fighting hard for every position on the grid, every point that they can in the championship standing, perhaps to give them a little bit of momentum going into the next season, or maybe even as soon as this weekend when they fight for that final past qualifying race.
Oh, look at that curve there for Velga. Got a lot of confidence over there. Apologies, Velga. Yeah, we saw Velga get past Rutinger earlier on. It was just a very nothing overtake, because Rutinger effectively lets him pass. Velga not with the same pace that he had in his heat, because Luke McCowan is dominating him now. And I think McCowan would be the only 2-time winner we've had this season after taking the victory back at Nürburgring 1 week ago, nowhere near the championship title, and he took part in all rounds bar the first, I believe. With the job score, he had a chance there, but it wasn't really coming together for him in the early rounds. I certainly remember at Silverstone he had some awful launches off the grid, but tonight he's been perfect. And well, here comes this battle again, and this time it's Scully holding on against JPZ, and that would have been a very nice move had he pulled it off at Piratella, but it wasn't quite successful.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that that's any knock on Luke not having won more than one race. I mean, the competition at the top here has just been so intense and so high quality. It doesn't surprise me that we've had 5 different winners and 5 different pole winners. So, you know, if he can go ahead and repeat here, he'll be the first to do it. I think that's an accomplishment that he can take home that nobody else can say for this season.
Yeah, this is when I look at the points, I'm like, oh my god, he's won the championship. But I don't think that is the case. I'm fairly sure he was quite far behind. He was 6th place going into this round, and some 77. No, I can't do math. Yeah, 77, right? I think 77 points he was sat behind Parker White. So that's too far for him to catch. Leon Rudinger, if it ends like this, will be your pro champion for the season. Making up enough points today, came into this round 3rd place, but with the poor rounds for White and Yanni, that'll be enough for him to get up there. And of course, in the Pro-Am Championship, Philip Hammer performing, as he has done for most of the season, at a very high level. Hammer was one of our top drivers actually in Season 5, looking back. Apologies, Season 7. But he, was still putting the Pro-Ams, just about a Pro-Am driver. And, well, he's very much going to be a pro next season because he has not dominated this season by any means, but this is really him at his best, and you can see the gap to the other Pro-Am drivers. And in the amateurs, at the moment, it would be Bob Humphrey taking the title. Came in ahead of Tim Bilicki. Bilicki had a good chance going into this round, but he had, or going into this A final, had an issue at turn 1 of the race. And it pretty much was a case that if Humphrey could beat Seifert, he would be champion. And with the gap at 8.5 seconds as it stands, Humphrey looks on course to achieve it.
Yeah, I was just taking a look at the team standings as well. It looks like Impulse has got it in the bag with Costa, Velvet, and Hammer all running near the top. So I think they've got that one solidly in place. I think the real question becomes with the Apex drivers. Luke obviously garnering some good points for the team, but Michael falling all the way down to the bottom. Can the Fire Academy guys catch them? I don't think so. They were a little too far back, about 69 points behind. So I think that's probably going to be a little bit to make up. So I think our team standings may hold. I think the question will be, with Rudinger finishing strong free and not making the cut, I don't think we're going to see a change in the top 4 positions there.
As there has been a change with Rudinger moving back past Velkert. So, Rudinger, who seemingly let past Velkert earlier on, there's been another change as well between Scully and JPZ. Huge netcode. That is a shame. Based down in, that's in America, of course, is Scully. And there was a huge gap between those two drivers. And it seems like JBZ has slowed down as well. Not sure what's happened there to JBZ. I don't think he's crashed. But after that contact previously...
maybe got a black flag, a meatball? I don't know.
He could have maybe got a drive-through penalty and just rage quit. He did get a drive-through penalty, yes. So he got that drive-through penalty. I was like, can't be bothered to go through the pits. That'll be the end of his season. Really a fun season for JPZ, but yeah, we'll end with an 18th place, a 19th place most likely tonight.
I think you called it. The unfortunate thing there being that, it's amazing how this simulation works worldwide. It really is. It works more often than not, but every once in a while you get those geographic distances, a little bit of lagging, whatever it may be, and net code is just the nature of the game. I just... reframe it and call it an oil leak or something. It's part of racing. It happens, and that's unfortunate.
That is a nice move there from Thomas Cope. Demonstrates just how quick Cope has been. He's been on stay ahead of White. Maybe White's overcome by guilt for kind of ruining Cope's race earlier on, deciding not to launch an attack at him. But these two have been glued to one another, and sometimes a bit too glued to one another throughout this event. White just very much following Cope through, and this would be a nice stop for Cope. I think he'll catch up past Humphrey as well, because Humphrey's just going to wave on past Cope. He's not going to care about overtaking. A few drivers disappointed, or a few people watching along, New and Flores, saying that Alessandro's results affects his heart condition, and I think we all support drivers and sports people in the real world who very much occur with that as well. I think that's in regards to Scully, perhaps, who is, of course, down in 14th place after that netcode. So, yeah, very disappointed now, much of the YouTube chat with that result.
Well, I wonder if Parker here is going to be fighting for kind of top 10 bragging rights. He's doing a good job kind of making his way back up through the grid from that early incident. He's got 2 spots to go to make the top 10. Of course, Humphrey, who is fighting for points here. It'll be interesting to see if he puts up any defense, if he can make his way up through Cope. We'll see. These guys are all tight and nose to tail there.
Madsen versus Hammer. I think this is a battle we saw a few times in Season 7. 2 evenly matched drivers. But it's not worth Hammer picking up a penalty. I mean, that's like one of the few things that can deny the championship if Hammer manages to do a few things really dumb and gets himself a bunch of penalties. Even that, he would need to get a lot of penalties because he's got a good lead in the championship with how well he's performed tonight. I think it's best let past your teammate Costa and let Costa have a go at Madsen. Costa would love to overtake Madsen, I'm sure. 2 drivers who have really been around, I think, since the start of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup. I think Costa maybe winning back in Season 3, I want to say, and Mansell winning back in Season 1. So 2 veterans of the series, and it looks like these two are going to go at battle. This will be fun for 4th and 5th position on track, and Hammer still in a championship winning place, very happy to remain.
Yeah, he's got a 7-second gap to his next closest competitor by Leakey in 8th, even though he's given up 3 or 4 of those spots. With only 2 laps to go here, 2 more after this one, I think he's sitting pretty. I was a little surprised to see him let his teammate by so late there on the front straight. I would have thought he'd let him by earlier and give him the preferred outside racing line, but doesn't seem to be holding him back whatsoever. Costa's putting the pressure on Madsen here, so that'll be a fun race to watch to the end.
Yeah, this will be very fun to watch. No opportunities quite yet for Costa to get past, but he does look quicker. That's not lets him have it if he has anything to do with it. Of course, the tyres potentially wearing out a little bit at this point. It's a hot track temperature, only over 40 degrees track temperature for this race, and so it is very tricky to keep those tyres in a good position throughout the event. This guy's done a pretty good job at it so far, but with just 2 laps to go, still the opportunity for it to change.
Yeah, you called it. This is the time in the race where if you haven't been managing your tires, they can get overheated. Thankfully for this track, there's quite a few lefts and rights, so it's not really asymmetric and off balance which side heats up. Last night I raced in this car at Daytona, and the right sides were screaming at me all night long, but I think these guys can balance it out a little bit better than that. It'll be interesting to see if they've done a good job managing their tires or if they have any trouble spots, particularly in these tight chicanes.
I was right earlier on about Costa winning Season 3, Madsen Season 1, and then you've also got Grabowski, Albert, Christiansen, Yanni. I'll read their whole names because obviously I say Albert, you may not know who that is, but Bo Albert, very successful driver. Roger Christiansen, Michael Yanni, of course, on the grid. He's not going to win a second time tonight. Nicholas Nold winning it last season. And also increasing like Leon Rudinger will join that list. But of course, there's a much longer list of other driver champions in the Pro-Am and the Am divisions over the years. And we'll have a couple of new names to that as well, should the results finish as they are, as it stands. Madsen still holding on. This is the closest battle going on out on circuit. I say that, Pereira has just had a spin and has dropped back. That's a shame for Pereira as he almost makes contact with Aidan Young.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a Code Brown moment there, right at that hairpin coming in on the apex. As an oncoming driver, that's the last thing you expect, is seeing the nose of a car pointed at you as you come through there.
This is the next opportunity now into Rivatsa for Philip Hammer. Oh, apologies for Pascal Costa. 1/10 of a second behind. He can certainly send it from here. Madsen knows that. He puts it in the middle of the track, and Costa, I thought, was just going to be slamming right into the rear of the car ahead, but he managed to keep his wits about him. And Madsen actually, with a very nice Rivatsa corner, able to pull away. We've just got one more lap of this championship to go, and very soon there's going to be a huge amount of relief for a few of these drivers. One of them would be Nick Madsen, if he can hold on to this 4th position, because Costa's closer again, but that poor run through the Rivatsa did put him back a car length too far, and still he is having to settle for that 5th position. A couple more opportunities for him to make the move, as Cope has got past Sedgley for 9th position.
Yeah, that was a good illustration of how tight this track is. One of the things we've seen all season long is that when you get up tight on somebody and they pick the inside line to protect it, you can kind of prepare for the over-under and go out wide and then cut back underneath. But there just isn't the space on this track, particularly in a place like Rivatsa, to be able to do that. So it's probably more of a defender's dream track than it is one where you can go on offense easily.
Here comes the slight overtake there from White. He's already made contact with one Olympus car so far tonight. Doesn't want to make it a double, but I think he's done that very well. He was all over the curb. It's absolutely clean as you like from White, and then escaping any net code there was a little bit of a concern with the US ping, whether with an EU server, but it seemed to be fine. Luke McCurran, though, out in the lead, hadn't won a race 4 rounds into the championship. He's going to make it back to back and will propel himself up to 4th position in the standings as well after tonight. An absolutely dominant showing. 5.5 seconds clear of the rest of the field, and for Apex Racing Team, Luke McCowan wins at Imola, but behind him and becoming the Season 8 Pro Champion in the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup is Leon Rudinger, and after everything going against him in the middle part of the season, he will be delighted to score the points that he needed for the title. Hammer will overtake Costa at the line, but it was always going to be enough. Philip Hammer had a lead going into this round, and he has extended it at the final, and Philip Hammer is your Pro-Am champion, and behind Bob Humphrey. And this will be the tightest championship in the amateurs, but Bob Humphrey, we believe, with the points necessary to become a 2-time Apex Racing League champion, and the amateur championship for him in this Porsche Cup going to him, and well, that profile picture next season, I'm sure, will have 2 trophies in his hands. He will be delighted with that 12th position, as long as he knows that that's enough for him to win the title.
Yeah, we can give some thanks back to the drivers here for, at the end of the day, making math reasonably easy for us. I think the only one we need to go calculate is the M class, just to make sure that Humphrey's gap over Seifert there was enough to make up the 6 points. I think you had already done some interim calculations on the heat qualifying, and he had put himself up there. So I think we can say with reasonable confidence that he overtook him from P2 to P1, but an exciting finish nonetheless.
Yes, yeah, that is... it could have been more complex. You're absolutely right. It could have been an absolute nightmare. Could this race, but I think it is all right. I'm desperately waiting for the drivers to all cross the line, and then we can actually upload the results. That'll be very useful for us to do. But I think Michael Yanni has now crossed the line, so disappointing end for him. He's not going to be the first 2-time champion. There was a few drivers who had a chance to do that. Yanni and Madsen and Costa have all won titles in this series before. They weren't able to do it. It will be Virginia, the championship winner, but top tonight was McCowan, ahead of our Pro title winner. Then it was Vilkert, Hammer, Costa Cuenza, Luis Balicki, Thomas Cope, Parker White, Daniel Sedgley, Bob Humphrey, Manuel Scully, Aidan Young, Thorsten Seifert, Thiago Pereira, Tim Balicki, Nick Madsen, Michael Yanni, and then it was Julian Jerry Zaineld and Laurent Benzo to round out the 20 drivers in our last race of the season. We will have a chat with a few of our drivers. Unfortunately, no one's yet come to join us. We've got to have some championship. Honestly, if Bob Humphrey doesn't come in to have a chat, I'm going to be absolutely heartbroken, because he's usually up for a chat, is Bob. I'm sure he's just maybe popping open the champagne as it stands, or eagerly waiting for the points to be uploaded. But I mean, Chad, it's been a fantastic season of this, and you know, a little bit compromised with the circuits that we've visited, of course, wanting to match the qualifiers series. So, you know, similar circuits to what we had in Season 6, and maybe not the ones that we would always visit, and maybe not the best ones for racing either. But I think the quality of the driving this season has been absolutely top-notch, that we really haven't had that many issues throughout the championship, and we've seen 6 fantastic races of action.
No, I've been telling people that I think this type of tournament, you know, with the heat structure, the consolation, so it's more than just hot lap qualifying, with this caliber of drivers, is really one of the most fun things to watch or participate in iRacing. It's a complete test of a driver, because you got cars that don't have any traction control or ABS. We've seen the full gamut of the tracks that they got to run on, from short ones that are more like an oval at Watkins Glen, to longer, more complicated ones like this one that are a full GP track, Formula One track. These guys have just put on full display all season long everything that it takes to succeed in this car. Racecraft, pace, managing traffic, understanding where you are in this race, in this season. It's just been a full complement to racing, and a real pleasure to have witnessed and been able to be sitting alongside you here to make the call.
It has been an absolute joy, as I believe we might have a championship winner waiting for us in the interview waiting area, and we will drag him up. Bob Humphrey, I believe this is Bob Humphrey at least, because I'll just see B ... but I trust that this is Bob joining us now. Bob, I'm literally uploading the points right now, but I think by our calculations, I think you've done it. Congratulations.
Did we do it? That was hard fought. That was squeaky bum time, should we say, when Thomas Cope and that were coming back through. But yeah, that's the best I felt all season, so that's good.
Definitely. I mean, your pace generally tonight was really strong. I mean, because your qualifying performance didn't seem very reflective because you only got the one lap, but your performance in the heat and the A final, you know, you really held your own.
Yeah, my VR died. Thus I only got one lap in. But other than that, yeah, it was pretty good. You should go on board with me on lap 1 for the first few turns. I don't know how I dodged the all the crashes. It was absolute mayhem, but luckily my brakes worked because I managed to get through it. And then it was just a matter of hanging on. So yeah, it was good times.
Yeah, by my calculations, you beat Thorsten by 5 points in the end. So 5 points ahead of Thorsten and 7 points ahead of Tim.
Yeah, I never trust your maths, Sam. So
no, and of course, maybe you've murdered a man out on circuit, and maybe you'll get a penalty or something.
Not
I don't
tonight.
know.
Not tonight.
No.
I didn't get a 4x all night. So incredible.
Yeah, good. You must. I mean, how aware were you of the point situation? Because I think going into that last round, you and Tim were quite close on the grid. I think you were next to one another on the grid.
Yeah, I was
think
one behind.
it was basically a fact of whoever won out of you, Tim, and Thorsten was winning the championship. How aware were you of that?
Yeah, I mean, Tom Stevens this morning was all excited, updating us with the points and this, that, and the other. So I was aware because of him. So I basically knew that if I beat those two, that I would assume I'd win the championship. But you just never know, do you? You just never know with protests and the little last lap accidents, like I was letting Tom cope and that through towards the end. I was thinking, please don't hit me, please don't hit me, because I was on like 14x, so 4x would have just thrown it all away. So yeah, I was aware, and I was just trying to keep my head together, which makes a change.
Yes. I mean, looking back at the whole season for yourself, I mean, it's been very good for you. I mean, of course, a little bit of a break from iRacing for yourself over the past few months, but you seem to have kind of jumped back into it and sort of not lost any of your limited ability.
Limited, appreciate that. Yeah, well, it's actually been a year since I got back into iRacing, so it's nice to be back and got back into VR, which going from pancake screens to VR is just the best thing in the world. So yeah, it's really made me want to push on, and the beginning of the season I would say I was rubbish and just very good at spinning, but then it's just sort of slowly come back. So yeah, hopefully take it on to the next season and crash a bit less.
Yes, yeah, well, of course, you'll be a Pro-Am next season as well with the result that you've achieved with this one. How does this championship feel compared to your other Apex Racing League championship?
It's my second one, and I'll be honest, the first one was the best because I beat Danley, and I'll never forget that moment in my life. He wouldn't shut up about it and still doesn't. But yeah, it's just great, isn't it? It's just nice to do well, and it's worth keep plugging away from. We've actually been doing practice sessions and cracking on, so yeah, it's great. Couldn't be happier.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Bob. It's fantastic to have you back out on circuit and back winning trophies. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
My old man, because he'll probably watch this tomorrow. So thanks, Trev, for bringing me up to be so good.
Wow, that's a fantastic shout outs, and yes, congratulations, Bob, for the amateur title. You very much deserve it, and we hope to see you back soon.
Yeah, cheers, chap. See you soon.
Cheers, congratulations.
Cheers, Chad. Ta-ra.
Bob Humphrey there, your amateur championship winner. And very well done to Bob. Consistent championship throughout, and really did perform well in those last couple of rounds. Chad, who would you like to have a chat with?
Well, let's bring in our pro from third to first, Leon Rudinger, who's sitting in the waiting room there. Leon, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Well, first of all, congratulations from the commentator's booth here. One heck of a drive today from start to finish. You made the move by our calculations from P3 up to P1 and take the championship. So how was it for you in the cockpit?
I was anxious times. First of all, thank you for the congratulations. But man, this race, it could have been 10 laps shorter if you ask me. After lap 1, I was just being told, okay, yeah, Gianni's out. And Park has also parked somewhere. And then I was just like, okay, yeah, just gotta bring it home now, and I think we're good. And yeah, had a good fight with Mario there. He was very fair. It was very nice of him, and yeah, brought it home.
Was
Very
there at
happy.
any point? Yeah, was there any point there during the feature final where you knew that you kind of had it in the bag? Was it when you saw the Apex guys go off, you knew you had enough points and were able to just play it safe, or it seemed like you were doing a little bit of racing still there at the end, so we weren't quite sure how much you were in push mode versus preserve mode.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Like, I was told that was probably gonna be enough even with P3, but then I wasn't quite sure. I didn't really believe it, to be honest, and yeah, the car felt good. I was comfortable to push a bit more. I was saving behind Mario a bit after I let him by there, and yeah, I just saw an opportunity and thought, okay, this shouldn't be too much risk, so why not take P2 if we can? And yeah.
Well, it's been a hard-fought long season. I'm curious, as you reflect back on it, what was your highlight and your low light from the season this year?
Highlight is definitely this right now. Obviously, winning the championship. When I was going into this, I knew we were gonna be fast, but you have so many good drivers in here. You have like the Apex guys are insanely fast, the Impulse guys, and a lot of the names you haven't really heard of before. Let's put it that way, not to sound disrespectful, but they always showed up well prepared, and yeah, it's great to win against them. The lowlight was definitely Watkins Glen, having to go through the pre-queue. We were just not really prepared there through the consolation race. We weren't really prepared very well there for the oval style racing, but yeah, thankfully there's a drop score, so it wasn't too bad.
Well, you join an elite list of champions from the ARA Porsche Cup. Will we be seeing you back again next season, or is your focus right now just on qualifying this weekend for the PESC series?
Yeah, I'm obviously still gonna push for the PESC series. I don't have a realistic chance or mathematical chance to qualify there, unfortunately. But yeah, would love to be back. We'll see if you guys put this on again. Would be great, and hopefully can defend my title somehow.
Well, certainly no shortage of quality racing from you all, so you've done your part. We look forward to another season of this series. It's just been spectacular from our perspective. As we wrap things up here for the season, anybody in particular you'd like to thank or help make this championship possible for you?
Of course, all of my team, they were so supportive throughout the whole season, with Bernardo Faria, who was also racing here. Had a bit of bad luck most of the time, unfortunately, but he would have been right up there with me. We have like Lorenzo Bonda, he was always there helping us with spotting or whatever we needed, and Felipe Costa, they were also just always involved. And of course our team sponsors like Red Dragon, without them we wouldn't really be able to do this, so yeah. And you guys for setting all of this up.
Well, you guys make our job easier by giving us good stuff to talk about. You certainly did your part in that today. Fantastic drive again from the beginning to finish. We give you our congratulations, and you are our Season 8 ARA Porsche Cup champion. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
There was Leon Rudinger there, your champion, as Chad was saying before, and by 12 points was the gap in the end, 582 to 570 points ahead of White, and Yanni was in third, a further 2 points behind. McKern did move up into fourth, and just to confirm our Pro-Am Championship as well, Hammer winning with 448 points, Balicki 409, Sedgley 401, and in the amateurs, Humphrey with 348, Seifert 343, Balicki 341. The AMs were definitely the closest, and if Seifert had been able to get a couple places further up, or if Humphrey had got that drive through that he was concerned about, that would have been enough to change it round, Chad. So absolutely fantastic end to the season, and it was nice as well to hear the positivity as well from those drivers in those final few interviews.
Yeah, I mean, single-digit splits between the different positions there. I think that says it all. This has been tight racing all season long. The caliber of racing in all three classes is phenomenal. I think all these drivers just put on a fantastic show for us all season. So I was on the edge of my seat from beginning to end. I hope you all were as viewers as well. This has just been a fantastic series to be a part of.
It really has been, and nice to get a chat with a couple of them as well. Unfortunately, Seems like Philip Hammer has definitely started the champagne already. He was the one who was most confident, I think, that he'd won the championship, so could afford to have the champagne on ice before a final started. So he, I'm sure, will be very delighted with his Pro-Am championship. But well, of course, you know, thanks to all the drivers who are watching this back for making this such a fun series. And of course, hopefully the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup will be back soon. There'll be other Apex Racing League series coming up, including the Apex Racing League Prototype Championship, which will be starting back up in 4 weeks' time. Sign-ups for that will be open by the end of the week. Of course, if you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and subscribe to Apex Racing TV, where you can see all of Apex Racing League's events, including the ASUS Apex Racing League Endurance Championship. That's on Friday. That'll be a lot of fun. The season finale also in that series, along with much else going on. Spec Racer Ford, Radicals, F3s, and loads more on Apex Racing TV. Also, do check out the Apex Racing TV social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Big thanks to Virtual Racing School, to SDK Gaming, and in particular to Apex Racing Academy. Apex Racing Academy giving our championship winners a bunch of prizes, 6-month subscriptions for our driver champions, so they should be very grateful for that one. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Chad Dick, and from Samuli Kuma, we are going to sign off for the final time this season, and we hope to see you back very soon on Apex Racing TV. See you then.